We were coming around the curve and a lady just about jumps out in front of us with a kid in arms, and there's a car on the side of the road that's parked and the hood is up. So I stopped and didn't want to hit her. Do you have any jumper cables? Can you help me start the car? So I quickly, my first thought was get off the road before somebody hits you. You're on a curve. So then I backed up the truck, got out of the way, got up front by her vehicle. Took me a second to get the cables. While I'm doing that, I'm looking around to see, are you alone out here with a kid? And how did you end up with a car that won't start in the woods? So on the side of the road, on a danger section. But the first thing she said is, yeah, the car just died. And I had to roll back to this section. Real quick, while I'm looking around still to see if anybody else is with her, didn't see anybody, to hook up the cables. So in a rush, I hooked them up, didn't pay attention to her battery, other than positive and negative. Went to hook mine up and she says, well, my battery needs to charge a while. And I'm thinking, I'm on a trip here, lady. I'll try to jumpstart your car, but we're not gonna sit here and charge your battery. At that moment, my wife had noticed somebody was out in the woods. There was an embankment about 15, maybe 20 feet below. So it was kind of deep and pretty wooded. And I believe she saw a man down there. Well, I hadn't seen him. She had already mentioned to my son, hey, I think there's somebody down there. And my son was already kind of anticipating what he may need to do. I go ahead and tell her, hey, try to start the car. And she says, it won't do anything. Won't even turn over, not even a click. So I said, let me go look real quick. As I'm looking at her car, I realize her cables aren't even attached to the battery, which I failed to see the first time because I was in a hurry. And I'm thinking, this is fishy. Cables will just come off. And at that point, while I'm sitting by her car, I'm right on the edge of the embankment, I see a man down below and it looks like he's walking around. Now, I must also mention, the lady looked questionable as far as drug abuse. Man, at that point, I'm like, I'm out of here. I told her real quick, you have one last chance, try to crank your car. Once I installed the cables, car cranked right up. I grabbed them cables, threw them in the back of the truck, didn't even put them away, and we took off out of there. Could have been that they just were out of their minds and not really thinking straight? Possible. But at the same time, it makes me wonder, was it a setup? Were they anticipating someone stopping and then the guy was going to come up? Funny part of it is, although it's not funny, is that he couldn't climb back up. It was so deep and wooded. Nevertheless, what would you have done? It's a lady on the side of the road, hoods up, with a kid. Although she looked questionable, I didn't see anybody else. And then by the time I did, I hurried up and got the heck out of there. And not to mention, it was in a dangerous curve up on the hills in the mountains right before the Cherhola Highway. The whole thing was just very, very sketchy and very uneasy. We talked about it as we moved on and we laughed a little bit about it, but it was a serious matter and it makes you think, what would I do if this happened again? Probably the best thing would have been to just keep going, and when I get cell service, call in and say, hey, there's a lady stranded on the side of the road. That probably would have been the safest. But like I said, she just about jumped in front of me with a kid in arms. Scary situation. At the same time, we got a few laughs about it, but it was three of us. My son was ready. I was ready. I was actually carrying as well, just in case anything happened. But don't want to put yourself in situations like that, although it did take me off guard. What would you have done and how would you have handled it?